Hello and welcome to the Squeaky Bum Time Podcast. It is Friday, August 6th. Mike, it's the last episode of season one, and we are in full transfer season. The Grealish transfer happened. There's rumors flying around. But, Mike, what the fuck happened? Lionel Messi is a free agent and he's available.
Oh my God, we had to redo the whole like show around 2-3 o'clock today. Leo Messi just bombshells, and he's like, you know what? I'm not fucking coming back. And everybody went, wait, what?
What?
It was like 8 o'clock in Spain.
Barcelona tweeted. It's like,
yeah, like a pissed off ex-girlfriend. Like, no, he's not coming back. Like, Jesus, God. Lady, fucking cool it. He's the best player ever. Maybe make an exception, but it was one of those where he was like, I'm done with you people. You fucked me already once. I'm done. I'm out.
I feel like it's so big that it feels like they should have broken into the Olympics, or like they should have stopped Sports Center.
Like the president has been shot.
Like it felt almost under-reported. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it was just casual.
Like, everyone being cool and just like, yeah, this is normal. I'm like, this isn't normal.
No, that's not normal. Fabrizio Romano had the news, and I think it was around just before 2 o'clock. And you're right. Everybody's like, wow, yeah, okay, cool. That's good. And like the weird thing, it was almost like he died too, because there was all of these Barcelona tributes, right? All of his highlight videos and all this stuff coming out. And people was like, oh man, end of an era. Leo Messi leaving Barcelona. Not the world is on alert. Where the fuck is he gonna go? Like that wasn't the first. That wasn't the first thought people had.
I posted it, 9 hours
No.
ago,
I know you had. I know you posted that. But what I'm saying is, but there was no the football transfer world is so hyper speculative that you would think if the biggest of the biggest free agents ever gets onto the market and can go anywhere. The thing is, he made 70 million euros last year as a salary, by the way. I'm going to put that out there first. But hypothetically, you don't have to make this big transfer.
So high.
Yeah, I know. But you don't have to make this whole big transfer fee, right? Like, you don't have to make it happen for Barcelona and then pay him 70 million. He's good. Hypothetically, that's actually a steal if you paid him 70 million euros with no transfer fee.
Yeah,
right? And he's 34. But so why, tell me, Laurent, why wasn't the media all over? Is he going to City? Is he going to PSG? Is he going to Bayern? Is he going to Real Madrid? Wouldn't that be the greatest story of all time if he went to Madrid?
I think that internally,
because he's so mad at Bartomeu that he's like, fuck you. You know how much I fucking hate you? I'm gonna go beat you at Madrid.
I think there's a couple things going on here, right? One is the English press specifically was on Grealish watch. That was like second by second. We had Kane. We don't know what's happening there. Things are happening. The transfer market sort of focuses on certain players. And then I think, and this is just my anecdotal outside opinion, I think Messi doesn't play the game, right? It doesn't seem like there's a guy. Like, there's no Brian Windhorst. There's no like connected guy who you're like, oh, that's his guy. The way like Scott
wait a minute.
Moros.
He been at Barcelona since he was 11 years old. So
right.
Why would there be a Brian Windhorst?
Right, but that place is a sieve. If something's coming out, it comes out because there are 45 people on the board. It's very political. All this stuff is going on. I think what's happening is, and this is another side story that I don't quite understand, but La Liga itself took on a private equity loan of something like $300 million or $300 million per team, some ridiculous, maybe it's $3.5 billion to try and settle their debts. I mean, this is a league, and I don't think people really realize this. The pandemic has really affected all the leagues, aside from the Premier League, which has taken a hit, but was always much more wealthy than the other leagues. Like France's teams are going to go out of business. Like Lille won the league and is selling all its players. I think that
happens though. That happens, but you're right.
But not at this stage.
It's not Lille.
It's
not Lille who's getting hit by the pandemic as much as the lower teams in the top division, and even the teams in England who are in the third, fourth division, who generally do okay.
but
right? That's where you,
they need the
if
gate.
you look at the pyramid, you go, right, that's where you would think it would happen, right? And it is,
So,
and
but
it's happening in
the
droves.
thing with this Messi thing is that, one, it's out of the blue. Two, they had a deal, right?
Yeah. Didn't he tweet that like it's happening soon or something like that?
Right. There is a known cap, which I didn't even know existed. And Barcelona made moves, right? They bought players like Garcia and Anfries. Well, Garcia was cheap. They got a couple guys. They got Sergio Aguero, who's like, well, what? What the fuck? What am I doing here? Why are?
Yeah.
He's
wow,
got the
he's
fucking
probably
Spider-Man look. He's probably like, I'm playing with Memphis Depay. This is not what I signed up for.
right. Oh, I forgot about that.
So there's something else going on here that I think Laporte, who is Messi's guy and is the president of Barcelona, the previous president, Bartomeu, may literally go down as the worst owner / operator in history. He may have destroyed Barcelona. I'm just throwing it out there. And so I think they're trying to leverage this deal and say, and between Laporta and Messi, they're like, this is our league. Without Messi right now, there is no La Liga. He's the draw for the whole league.
I saw ESPN Plus or ESPN had a story about how ESPN Plus has the rights to La Liga now, and it's this big Messi Barcelona story because they don't have the Messi Ronaldo connection anymore. And now, a friend and I were talking about it, like, who's going to watch this, right? You would always even when Ronaldo left, you would still be like, okay, El Clasico's this weekend. All right, fine. Or or Atletico is playing one of the two big teams. Okay. But now it's like, all right, I don't give a shit. Like,
yeah, it's really bad. So I think there's this thing going on the side. For the first 5 hours, I kind of was like, oh, he's going to go to PSG, even though I don't want him to.
Mm-hmm.
The City world, we went through this last time. We had like a whole train meter, the Messi train coming and going, the transfer train. So we're kind of like, I can't with this again.
But again, there is one tremendous difference, and it's that
he's a free agent.
The only team, it's a financial thing. But the thing is that you don't actually, all the financial fair play, all of the shit that everyone has killed Manchester City for over the whole week and much longer than that, but specifically over the last week, you're taking boyhood heroes from Aston Villa and Tottenham and blah 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 blah. Well, you don't have to do that now. You can just sign a fucking guy.
Yeah,
like you just sign him for, you know what I mean? So, like I said, 70 million euro. Like, by the way, that would have what were the figures being tossed around last year with Manchester City?
200.
Yeah. And then you would have to pay the motherfucker. So, okay, that's a steal. So if they want him, they've got him.
Yeah,
but PSG can have him too.
I don't think he's going to leave now. I think this is a leverage thing, and they're going all in a sort of the similar way that Harry Kane is going all in to get to City, right?
So you think the team is doing this? So do you think he's trying to do the same thing as Kane?
He's in cahoots with Laporte. They're trying to get a better deal on how much money they get. And they're trying to put it on Tebas to say, oh, La Liga is trying to screw Barcelona out of Messi. And you know who runs La Liga? Real does.
Right.
Right? So there's a reason. All this stuff segues into a lot of the themes of the season, right? This all goes back to COVID. It goes back to lockdown. It goes back to the Super League and how La Liga has basically been spending over its earnings to keep up with the Premier League, which is the gold standard for revenue-generating leagues in world football. It's not close. In fact, the Premier League is probably better at it than the Champions League, but the Champions League is still the most prestigious only because it gets the other teams. Like on a team-by-team, game-by-game basis, I mean, the Premier League is better run than the Champions League, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? The narratives are better. The systems in place are better. They don't have to deal with Krasnodar and fucking racist chants.
There's that piece, but it's also that you have such a cool down period in the Champions League, right? I've always said, we've said on this show before, if you had the Premier League run for You had no breaks to go midweek into wherever the fuck. You actually had midweek games in the Premier League, much like they do in the lower divisions, and
the championship,
in the championship. And then you would basically, at the end of the season, the top 4 make the playoffs, and they go into the Champions League. What a novel concept that would be. And then you run the same schedule, right? It's basically, think of it like the way that the Euros was run.
Yeah.
Those storylines, those narratives, they don't have a cooldown timer of 3 to 4 weeks sometimes, right? Even in the knockout stages, there's 2 weeks in between sometimes. So
yeah, it's 16 games max. You play 6 games over,
3 months.
3 months, yeah, it's ridiculous.
4 months. Yeah,
right, and it was just there to sort of expand things. But I think my prediction is that he goes back to Barcelona.
Okay.
And the league blinks and basically makes a Braithwaite exception and goes, remember that time when Barcelona had no strikers and had no money and the transfer window had closed and they just let Barcelona get a striker for some fucking reason?
Yep. Yeah, I think it's possible.
So there are exceptions that when you are the league, we make exceptions. You can
change the rules. Right. I really do want to dig out one of the rumors which is what caused this, right? So he had just played at the Copa America with I love this. Back to Spurs. I love it. With Giovanni Lo Celso, with Christian Romero. Christian Romero was the Serie A Defender of the Year at Atalanta.
Emi Martinez, our other friend, Emi Martinez.
Right. But so Romero is a good young defender, 23 years old, and Spurs have been courting him, shall we say. When I say that, it means they're taking 6 weeks to sign a guy that should take 10 days. And they do this and they try to cheapen the offer and we'll throw in add-ons and this and that. And it's just how they do business, and they miss out on a lot of players like this. Thankfully, reportedly, this has gotten over the line. Apparently, he's in London right now, and he's going to be signing on the dotted line.
Yeah,
I think it's done, and he's going to be announced tomorrow.
So Messi's was done too, so be careful.
Right. So Messi has been imploring. There's a fax
machine in Madrid that has David De Gea's name on it.
David De Gea, right. So Christian Romero really showing promise for Messi in Argentina at the Copa, and Messi effectively sends word back overseas, sign this fucking guy. He's great. We need a defender. I want him. He's my countryman. Get him, and I will be happy. That did not happen. That was not the case. And it's one of the reasons. I'm not saying it's the reason. It's definitely one of the reasons.
It's definitely the reason. I mean,
it's the reason. It's it. So Messi is pissed off about that, and he fucks off. So, Lionel Messi, let me be the first to welcome you to North London to play with Harry Kane, because he's going to stay too. So it's going to be great. We're going to have Lionel Messi. We're going to have Kane. We're going to have Romero. It's going to be awesome. So
and this Messi news is burying like my dream come true of Jack
This is
Grealish,
the funniest part. Yeah.
Finally signing for City, the most non-secret thing that was happening. They drew it out, made it dramatic. They made the video. They showed his calves first because, of course. And I would like to talk a little bit about like why Jack Grealish has a little bit of extra. It's swag. He's got the factor. He's got the cool factor. And I said this the other day. City are devoid of cool. Their most interesting person in the club is, outside of playing, right? Like they could play cool, but people consider them boring, right? They're just like,
I'm trying to think of who would be the most interesting player on the field.
The most interesting person, the leader and the most interesting person on the team is Pep, right? He's the one with the charisma.
I hate. No. Yeah. Yes, he does.
But he is. Ultimately, when you think about the most famous person on the team, is Pep, right?
It should be De Bruyne, but he's mute.
We have the memes of him dancing. You have like Pep taking a drink. Like when they make memes about City, they're Pep memes, right? But now hopefully Grealish brings something. He brings a swag. He brings a style of play, the low socks, the hair. He's English, which always is good, but he's not like a John Stones. Oh, we're just taking one game.
No, he's Beckham English, right? He's
got some juice. He's got some juice. And if you watch the Euros, they were dying for him to come on, right? And
I screamed about it every time we talked about England on this show.
Right. So here's an indictment of Gareth Southgate. He did not play him, and Pep Guardiola's like, yeah, we want him for $100 million. What the fuck were you doing?
Yeah. Here's one for you. And
Rebecca Lowe hammered him. I listened to Rebecca Lowe had a podcast.
All right. Like, I have
Gareth
not.
Southgate, what's wrong with you?
I have not seen any of this, so no spoilers. Do you know who Jack Grealish reminds me of? Jamie Tart Jamie Tart from Ted Lasso. So I haven't. I'm very excited to watch the second season. My fiance is AWOL at the moment. She's up in New York, fucking off doing a bunch of nonsense. So I haven't been allowed to watch it.
No, that's her. Okay. It's okay. You're better off because watching it episode by episode is painful. You're just like, I just want to watch more.
No, I prefer doing that. I like it, but I'm gonna catch up. Okay. But anyway,
yeah.
I actually called that last season because I was like, he's just got that it, right? And I'm like, he just doesn't. He plays for a shit team. He doesn't play for Man City. Now he does.
Yeah.
So there he is.
And I think this is the next. Like, I think this is the next phase for City. It's we're good, we win, we're competent, we're technical, we're the best team in the league. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now it's, can we be the best team in the league and the most famous team in the league?
The sexiest, the coolest.
The cool factor, right? So you need Grealish, you need, and I'm going to say it and I don't care, black people are cool. You need cool black people on your team.
Yeah. Right? Okay.
No. I mean, Mario Balotelli was the coolest thing that ever happened to City, and he was a footnote, right? Like he passed. I
don't think England was ready for him. I'm not saying anything about Balotelli. No.
The guy fucking drove. Had a.
Here's a question. Here's a question for you.
In fatigue colors.
Here's a question for you about Grealish. Do you think this raises, because you just said, right? Like all of those things about City are true. They're technical. They're talent. They're the best team in the league. But Sky Sports still wouldn't give them the time of day. You'd still rather hear about the Liverpool front three Manchester United or Arsenal, right?
Imploding. There's still more.
Do you think
for sure?
Yeah, and it's obviously because of the viewership and all that stuff is slanted because historically they have much bigger fan bases. I understand that.
It's fine.
Do you think that Jack Grealish raises the profile of Manchester City, which is such a stupid thing to think about if we dial it back a second?
Listen, they gave him the number 10. Right, like that's
I know,
yeah.
Which is weird because Messi's going to take it when he signs there.
I think it does, but not yet. Not yet.
I don't think it does a lot. I think it does a little
because Grealish is famous in England, right? He's not really international. They did him a disservice by not letting him play at the Euros because the stadium chanted.
Well, then he would have been but
right. He could have broken out. Been the star of the Euros.
Well, then he would have cost you 150.
Yeah, well, he had an escape clause. It was in the contract.
Yeah.
Right. That was amazing. So the owner of the operator, the president of Villa, did a 5-minute video laying out the whole thing. Very cool. Very cool. Like, it was a bit of prison video, but it was still cool to have the president of the team say, this is what happened. Jack had a hard time. He wanted to stay. He signed a 4-year deal. He wanted Champions League. In his contract was a release clause for $100 million. There were several clubs that came, and City hit the clause. That was the number. And, we know it was happening, and we did such and such and such things. We're going to be less reliant on one person. We're happy, blah, blah, blah. It was awesome. And all the Villa fans like, oh, awesome. This is cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I feel really
we're
good.
Over the moon. I'm fucking buzzing. I'm like, great.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, he's a great player. But talk to me a little bit about how Manchester City is going to line up this year, assuming for the moment that they don't go in for Harry Kane. And it's not. I'm not speaking about the Kane situation. There's really nothing new to report or talk about there.
Assume Kane doesn't happen, right?
Assume Kane doesn't happen.
Kane not playing.
You don't have a striker. So
Gabriel
talk to
Jesus.
me about. Well, you have a bad striker. So, but with all of that talent,
we have a middling striker.
Okay, I see small differences there, but nonetheless, you have so much talent on the wings and in the central attacking midfield. You've got. Let's just go through it for a second. Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne, Raheem Sterling, Ferran Torres, who, by the way, a lot of people forget about him.
Really fucking good.
Really good. Bernardo Silva, Riyad Mahrez, Oh yeah, and Jackie Grealish now. So that's 7 guys.
And you forgot our leading goal scorer.
Well, Gundogan plays deeper.
Yeah, he does.
So these are
he's in the Fernandinho committee.
These are players who can play either wing. These are players who wing, up front, right? So 7 players that would walk into any other team in the Premier League, arguably all of them.
In fact,
give or take 1 or 2.
Mahrez, Grealish, and Grealish specifically were the fulcrums of teams that were really fucking good. And Mahrez with Vardy fucking won the league, which still seems insane. It seems like 47 years ago. That was like last week. That happened.
But so talk to me about, with all of that talent, you can't play 7 attacking midfielders or wingers.
I think there are a lot of I think there's mixing and matching that happens. I think it's about, for City, and this is the difference between City and United. For City, they know their points are made against shit teams that sit deep. They're like, we need Jack Grealish to win us those games the way Mahrez does. Because right now, when teams sit deep and they have a hard time breaking them down and they're going around and doing their fucking thing, and it is hard. City usually do it. They rely on Mahrez on one side to cut in and shoot, or De Bruyne on the break hitting Raheem, who's moving, right? In transition, they can break teams down. But when there is no transition, it's sort of basketball-y again. They're fine in transition. They're good. When they're set in front of teams, when the teams are bunkering in, they're going to have both sides, right? They're going to have Grealish on one side to work in that little, almost David Silva spot on one side. Yeah. With guys making runs, because he'll get to the byline and people will be able to make runs. Raheem Sterling should have a good time if he can get in the box. I think the question is who's going to get on all these crosses? That's City's big problem. And I do think, and I really, when I think it through and I look at the squad, the best finisher on the team who can play the 9 is Foden. But Ferran Torres has been there. Jesus has been there. City are bad when Sterling play the 9. He shouldn't ever be there. But there are guys that have been deputized into those spots. But I think it's really just about someone regularly making the run that a 9 would make, rather than just trying to occupy center backs. And that's what makes City difficult. And that's why they won the league without a striker, really, most of the season, is someone took responsibility as a collective. Or maybe they designated someone, but the front 3 or 4 or whatever, they would move around. And City play in the half spaces. They're 8s. So De Bruyne and whoever is next to him, sometimes it's Silva, sometimes it's Gundogan, they'll play 5 up front with 1 holder. Yeah, and then the fullbacks tuck in. The fullbacks tuck in so that they don't get caught on a break.
What you're describing is classic City against a bunkering team, right? Because unless it's Mourinho's Spurs who are inviting that on purpose to try and hit you the other way, which thank God we don't have to deal with anymore. You're basically saying, go ahead, I dare you. I've got Kyle Walker. He's the fastest kid in the world. Like, he's going to catch you.
I love him for that. He will catch you. One day he won't, and it will be bad.
Right.
But but that's really what he's there for. It's just about never having anybody play who's out of form. It'll just never happen.
Of course, and you're going to have that as an indicator, and you're going to have rotation because of form, injuries, and then of course midweek games with all the competition.
Right. I mean, City's going to play 65 games.
Yeah.
So and then De Bruyne gets knocked a lot.
But if you're playing Liverpool at Anfield, or if you're playing in a Champions League round of 16 game or whatever, who do you see as the attacking band and I guess the supporting group in the midfield?
I don't know. It'll depend where it is. There's only a few.
Assume everybody's healthy. Assume everybody's on top.
The trust right now. There's only a handful of guys there's 4 that are there always. Diaz, Walker's in a big game.
No, I know. I'm saying up top though.
Yeah. De Bruyne, Gundogan, Foden.
You think Foden is that high on that pecking order?
Oh, on a big game? Yeah. For sure.
Okay.
It's Sterling, Mahrez. Well, Silva's going to go. Bernardo's the one who's going to go. Because he was kind of he was always kind of on the fringes anyway. Either it's being planted or someone is saying that he wants to leave. He's never really been a loud "I want to leave" guy, but he's the one that wants to leave. But I
It's
don't know who's
weird
going to buy
because
them.
he was
There's
having
no one. There's no one to buy him.
he was right. He was having a big breakout season 2 years ago, and then
He did
the
in the Centurion season. He was incredible.
yeah, he was great. Who was it? It was Benjamin Mendy with the racist joke that he was just a
That
joke
fucked
among
him.
teammates,
Yeah,
but it fucked him up.
ruined him. It did.
Yeah,
Because he
it's
got
really interesting.
he sent out a picture of basically like a tar baby kind of like 1950s big mammy, sending it to his friend.
Like
They
a
played at
cartoon.
Monaco together. Yeah, and it wrecked him. I think the social media got him, and it took a long time. The big issue for him was he wouldn't shoot. He stopped shooting, like
Yeah.
something, and he wouldn't score goals. So he's playing in this attacking team, and he never would shoot. And only towards the end he had a couple of big goals late in the season that he actually shot, which was like. But I'll still his game, the big 2000, the January 3rd Liverpool at Etihad 2019 is still he never stopped running. He's got
No,
that.
yeah.
Like if he goes to Atletico, he'll be fucking awesome.
Right. That feels like a good fit for him, right? I feel like
Yeah,
that
he'll
might
just
make
run.
sense.
He'll
Yeah.
just run.
Hey,
run.
we've got a Portuguese coach. We'll take him. We'll take him at Spurs. I'd like that. That would be good. As
yeah.
a make weight of the players who would go as a make weight for Kane, who would actually leave, I think he actually makes the most. Laporte is the guy you want, but he's not going to leave.
He wants to leave.
Oh, is that right?
He wants to go to Spain.
Yeah, well, he's not coming to fucking North London, that's for sure.
Well, I mean, he's out of favor. It's Stones and
Right.
Stones and Diaz now.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's no gratitude for Aymeric Laporte. It's a shame. It's a shame. But well, you know what? Speaking of gratitude, I want to talk about my friend Joe at Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. That, folks, is a segue you can't pay for. But seriously, Joe really does a great job of taking care of both myself, Laurent, and all of his folks that get in touch with him. He takes care of making sure you know how to pay your bills, and not just that, but pay your bills responsibly, make smart decisions for you, for your family. We've said before on the show, talk about finding money in the couch cushions. It's honestly, that's an undersell. It's way more than that, right? So you can see the website now. If you're listening to the show, go to attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com. We're looking at it right now on the live video. It's great. It's a handsome website. It's got a lot of different things on it, but like he's got the baby he's holding. He's just a likable guy. He's down to earth. You'll just call him right now. Attitude of Gratitude Consulting. Joe's going to take great care of you. Again, attitudeofgratitudeconsulting.com for all the information you'll need.
And you can schedule a call right on the website. It's pretty good.
We're recording at night, so I'm not going to bother the poor guy, but I got to call him tomorrow. I'm trying to buy a house soon. So we'll see. We'll see what Joe thinks about that. He'll be like, well, Mike, you're an idiot. So and he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But getting back to the show, I want to talk a little bit more about the Jack Grealish-less villains from Aston Villa.
Yeah,
I am big on them, and
it's so interesting. What brought you? I was in on them after the 7-2, which was the greatest event of last season.
It was the way that they handled this summer.
Yeah.
Well, they were super fun last year. I was wrong about them last year. We were both right about Emi Martinez, and that's a big part of it for me. I love him. Favorite keeper in the league for sure.
And Tyrone Mings and Konza and the whole team. And
good. Watkins, they're a likable group. And when you sit here and you go, well, they lost their biggest asset, their boyhood hero, blah, blah, blah. But they did it the right way. They knew they were losing him. As you said, the video with the president saying, look, this was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. They literally said, we knew we were getting 100 million pounds for him. We're going to go out. We're going to go get Emiliano Buendia. We're going to go get Leon Bailey. We're going to go get Danny Ings. That Danny Ings signing, I think today or the day before, whenever it was, first of all, it was old-fashioned. It was old-fashioned in the way that you didn't hear it. You didn't hear it rumored. There wasn't like he's in talks
because he's Danny Ings.
It showed up on the radar. You're like, oh shit, There's a new signing.
Well, I mean, I think to be fair, when he did not re-sign with Southampton, you knew he was available, right?
No, absolutely. But a lot of teams, including Spurs, were linked to him.
He was
You never
the
once
backup.
you never once heard Villa linked with Danny Ings. It was just, oh, Danny Ings plays for Aston Villa now. You're like, that's fucking cool. I almost wish that in the same way that like in the US, in the first day of NBA and NHL free agency, and even NFL starting to get there,
they just do the whole thing.
they just go nuts, right? And it's just like there's no, I mean, sometimes, and there often are, but like a trade happens. It's like this shit just like a Waj bomb, right? Just this happened. Everybody's like, holy shit. That was sort of
it would be great if they just did the transfer window.
Right. It's just so protracted. Like, and I know I'm biased as a Spurs supporter because it takes forever from a Spurs perspective, much more than other teams. But
but that's
a lot of teams. They're courting the player, blah, blah, blah.
No, but that's the pain we have of having a non-closed, open, competitive sport that's competitive across a continent. And you can buy players from South America.
Oh,
right? So
sure. Yeah.
Because the whole thing is so open, it's got to have some rules that are governing the whole thing, right? Like the NBA can do it that way because it's like the season ends, the draft happens. We don't care what's happening in China. Like we set the rules because it's our league and it's closed and we have the 30 teams, so we can do it the way we want. So as much as we really like the European model and we're enjoying, the sort of fruits of this league that we're falling in love with and can't stop thinking about, there is downsides, and that's one of the things. The transfer window sucks. By the way, historically, there was no transfer window. You could just sign players anytime. That was that was a modern thing. Guys would just show up.
Interesting.
But they weren't free, right? They had the equivalent of the Messerschmitt case. Like they had to be free. They could perpetually renew your contract.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
the way we
like old school baseball, right? But yeah, so I'm really falling in love with Villa. I think they're my new Wolves. I think that I'm going to be following them.
Wolves, but Villa
no, I mean, well, and I'll get into Nuno in a second, but Villa, there was a line when Tottenham sold Gareth Bale in 2013, and it was mocked quite a bit. It was they sold Elvis to buy the Beatles. Now, and the Bale 7, as we talked about in the last few shows, with Lamella leaving, the final one of the Bale 7. But that was the line they said. It was, pour one out for old Coco. But that was actually the line that I think Spurs kind of put out into the media, like, hey, we sold Elvis, but we bought the Beatles. And that was not the Beatles, okay? That was a Beatles cover band.
They ended up with Sonny and Cher, basically.
Right, that was a Beatles cover band.
Literally, Hinman, Son, and Eriksson playing all of Cher.
Well, Sonny wasn't one of the 7. But
I know, but it still feels better to say it that way.
I see what you're doing there. But I use that line for Villa because this is effectively I'm a bigger believer in these 3 than I was of those 7. Especially at the time, I was like, all right. Anyway. I think that they build on last year.
Yeah, what Villa is doing is more targeted. I think Grealish sort of went down back half of the season, and they sputtered down the stretch. The excitement of them. Remember, it was them and Southampton that we really liked early, and Everton was kind of like, whoa, Everton, especially the first 3 games.
Right.
And then Southampton got beat 9-0 and had to basically restart their season again. Again, I don't know how the fuck that happened. But then. They sort of faded, and I kept and my love really stuck onto Brighton and Villa. They really didn't have another great result the rest of the season that you can really stand out on. But I think with Grealish gone, I think they can show the value in some other players. Like I really love John McGinn. I really love Douglas Luiz. I really love Matt Targett's really fucking good. Like that team is really, really good.
El Ghazi, they've got a handful of those players.
El Ghazi had some big finishes in the end, and then Watkins would just run. And now they have. I think Watkins was a good finisher, but Danny Ings is the next level. Like the guy,
he's a clinical finisher.
Yeah, he's
And so
elite.
that's the thing, is that you're taking the support of Grealish away, but Buendia and Bailey and the supporting cast are going to help that. But also having Watkins to run off of. There's going to be times where Watkins makes a run and the ball goes into the box. I see Danny Ings. He's a
He's a
nose
good
for the net.
passer.
Yes, but what I'm saying is he's a nose for the net kind of guy. But I almost see him holding back a step or two and waiting. Like there's gonna be times where Watt goes for the back post, the cutback balls, and like even just the ping pong bounce around the box. He's gonna finish those 10 out of 10 times. They have to be
worried about. I mean, his issue is injury, right? Like,
yep.
If he wasn't injured, he would have been Liverpool's striker, and history would be different, right? He might be in the Firmino role, and they might have never had Firmino, or they might have never got Mane, or one of those guys would have never been around. By all accounts, Klopp loved him, and they were just like, dude, your fucking knee's gone, dude. So, and you can see it when he runs. It looks like something's wrong with his
right. And so there's going to be times he's not going to play 38 games. There's going to be times where he needs to take a day, or he'll play 60 minutes or whatever. And this is an optimistic case. Hopefully he's not going to miss any length of time with injuries. If you're a betting man, put a couple of shekels on that, though.
Yeah, he's 15, but he's 15 in 25 games kind of scorer, right? Like,
sure,
he just can't he just can't play 30. He just can't. And then we have so much fucking football coming. We have the Jared Saturday,
the official start of the 2021-2022 season. So as we said in the open,
it's the Super Cup for other countries.
Basically. Yeah, I know. It's the beginning. This is the last episode of season 1 of Squeaky Bum Time podcast.
You made it.
It is the beginning of the next season. We made it. What we're going to talk about in the next episode, which will officially be the first episode of season 2, is our predictions. Top 4, Golden Boot, and relegation. But one thing I want to pivot to, one thing I want to pivot to, there's a lot of fantasy drafts that have been happening. And I find it interesting that, there's rumored players who are still coming in. So I'm curious how leagues sort of reconcile that. We have a pretty good system in our league with like waiver wires and bidding and all that stuff. But the reason we've waited to next Wednesday to do our drafts, I should say, with both divisions, is because we want to make sure that everybody gets in and has that availability and all the full breadth of players to choose from, of course. And with that said, there is no greater tradition prior to a fantasy season than discussing some of the players who we think might be busts, go too high and shit the bed, and sleepers. So, Laurent, you had a good one. Who's your biggest fantasy bust for the 2021-2022 Premier League season?
Yeah, I am not high on Jamie Vardy, not because he's getting worse, but because Leicester sees the writing on the wall. He's still an incredible player. He led the league in assists from shots, in that he shot and gave up other assists by shooting. There's really good stats on FB Ref. His goals were down, and he had a poor, for him, expected goal tally, but he's 35, I think, 34. And the real problem is that Leicester has brought in a guy called Daku, not Daku.
Patson Daka.
DACA, right? Not the immigration reform thing. We'll not discuss that. They're dreamers. They're dreamers. I'm a dreamer. I dream of tanks rolling through Western Europe.
There it is, folks. Your Nazi reference of the week. We got it in with the bell.
But
I think you're right.
Jamie Vardy would have been a really good World War I soldier running across no man's land. A great scout. He would have seen the Jerry's coming across. He would have used all the slurs against them. But he's a guy you want in a foxhole. He's a real foxhole player. But I think that his replacement is on the way with Daka. And I think what will happen is Daka will score goals early, and the plan, and Jamie Vardy will pick up a hamstring, and he'll go on a run. And then you'll have Daka and Iheanacho. Daka is an African player who's now in the secret Red Bull academy system between Leipzig and Rebzil Salzburg. Great players are coming through those teams. And our own Jesse March, the American, is actually the coach at Red Bull Salzburg. So he knows a bit about Daka. And he scored almost 30 goals in a good league, at a good level, like the Champions League. So I'm interested in what happens. Maybe Daka's a 25 game player. Maybe he can score 10 in the season, but I think he takes it away from Vardy. But
so that's a 2-for-1. You've got a sleeper there. And a fan and a high level bust. Vardy for me is he's your classic. And again, we're Americanizing fantasy sports for the Premier League, which by the way is how you all should be doing it, because FBL is just like throwing a stone into the ocean. Like, have a good fucking time, idiot. But Vardy seems like the guy who's over the hill and doesn't know it yet. And this is the season where everybody goes, "Oh, we're never ever going to talk about him seriously again," from a fantasy point of view, right?
The thing that's so interesting about Vardy, which makes him such a weird fantasy player, is that he's so reliant on goals, because he literally is one of the least. He's a player who touches the ball least and plays the most. He's all about running and one touch. He doesn't take touches in the box. It's I'm on it, I'm shooting, because he's run to the place he needs to be without it being a 1-2. He doesn't generate assists. He doesn't really need the ball. He's the best scorer off the ball in the league. Basically, he's Thompson from the Warriors, who almost scored 50 points on, I think, 40 touches. Some ridiculous.
Klay Thompson,
Klay Thompson. He didn't bounce the ball. That's what it was. He scored 50 on only 7 bounces, which is insane. Like, what?
Another one I'm thinking about is one of our favorites.
I'm really proud of that. That Vardy is Klay Thompson is.
That's a good one. I like that. One of the ones I'm worried about from a value perspective is one of our favorites, a guy we waxed poetically about last year. We waxed poetically about the whole team from Southampton last year early.
The greatest middle class player in the league.
Wow. James Ward-Prowse. He's still a wizard with a free kick. Yeah, he's still a wizard with a free kick, and we reward that handsomely in our league. Yeah. But
and he's still looking for the gigantism of Westergaard's head. He literally has gigantism.
But he lost Ings, and he obviously wouldn't have had Ings for the whole season. But a full season of Che Adams is going to hurt him. And by the way, Southampton as a whole is not. They're a potential relegation candidate. I'm worried for them. James Ward-Prowse. The weird thing about the Premier League fantasy in general, right, is that like you want to target potentially great but good players on usually bad teams because they won't have internal competition. But I'm worried for JWP on this. He's going to have a fine season, but where he's being drafted, where his ADP is, I'm very concerned for whoever is going to put that price tag on him. I want to love him still, but I'm not ready to make that jump. And then another one going on the other side of the spectrum is a player that I didn't get to keep in our league, and it's going to keep me up at night after the draft because he won't make it back to me, is your Lord and Savior, Phil Foden. And I just think he, as you mentioned before, we talked ad nauseum about how many options there are up top. Whether you're right and he becomes that false nine or not, he's going to lose a significant amount of time. I've had players in the Pep, kind of
the Pep zone.
Pep zone, if you will. Yeah, like the merry-go-round where it's like, okay, this player's in it's horrible. So as much as it's going to bother me that I have the 6th pick after our keepers are out, he's the 2nd best player available. Somebody's going to pick him, and it's going to make me sad, but it's basically whoever does that is going to save me from myself. So I'm happy about that. So
I don't know if you know this. Did you know that Villa paid $38 million for Danny Ings? Holy shit!
$38 million? Okay, I want to.
Well, that's what Transfer Market says. That's a big number.
I don't believe that. That's a lot of money for Danny Ings.
$38 million.
That I would believe 3.8 before I would believe 38.
Hey man, no wonder they sold him. It's like, of course.
Yeah, that feels like a classic.
By the way, they have nothing. They have nothing. They have not bought anyone. They have. It's Theo Walcott. It's going to be up front.
That feels and Che Adams. Horrible.
Che Adams is not good enough.
No, not at all.
They're in trouble.
Tell me about your favorite. What are the themes that we kind of identified before we came on recording about some sleepers? What was like the one theme amongst a bunch of them?
Well, I am a fan of championship players. I am a fan. I do take on some of my old school baseball feeling of like, guys, when you go and look at the lower leagues, and I do check them all the time. I follow the championship, at least cursory. I go on who scored and look at who's scoring. And when you see someone stand out and that makes you watch the team, it really makes a difference. Season before last, Teemu Pukki was the man I identified from the championship. Scored 28 goals, high-flying Norwich. I killed it in the first half of the season. Last season,
it was one of those where you made that pick and everyone went, fucking who? And you're like, Teemu Pukki, idiots. And
then last season was Jared Bowen. Jared Bowen, who had scored 20 goals at the half for Hull. They sold him and got relegated from the championship. So they were like, he's going to keep us up, but we can't afford him. He goes to West Ham, and he has a really good and important season. He's part of the Moyes Assance that West Ham had, and I was proud of him. And he's been linked, a light link, like a sprinkle to Liverpool, whether that's true or not. And then this season, I've got Ivan Toney from Brentford, who is a big, strong, classic forward and finisher. I mean, this guy's big. He's a big 6'4" mobile finisher. He set the record for goals in the championship. I think he had 34 or 31. So this is not a joke, and I'm sure he's obvious, but I think you can probably look at a couple Brentford guys that maybe had down seasons last year. I think Ben Rama for West Ham will be really good this season because they had. So if they had Ben Rama, Watkins, Toney, Mopai, that is the group of players that Brentford has brought through. And whoever is the striker for Brentford, that's your next man because they know what they're doing. So keep an eye on that. And then Harvey Elliott is a player who's
he's from Liverpool originally.
Right, but he was at Blackburn last season, led the league in goals and assists combined. Incredible season. Whether he's able to move through, I would keep my eye on him. And then Connolly, is it Connolly? Donnelly? Who's the kid from Chelsea? The little one, the Scottish one.
Oh, the little guy, the Scottish kid. Shit. I could see his face. Yeah.
Really, really, really good. He's going to take the Buendia role for Norwich, and he might be a real sleeper. Really good. Take that role. Like, these are the teams that are doing it right. Like, if you want to do the Moneyball thing and sort of think about being in fantasy in 98, 99, 2000, and you're just like, there's some stupid ass
Billy Gilmore
out there.
We were not close.
Yeah, well, he was Connolly, Irish, whatever. He looked like the other Connolly that played for Brighton. Brighton is still on my mind. Billy Gilmore. He's playing for Norwich. He's really good. The only issue I'd have with him, he's probably 5'6".
5'7".
Premier League.
Well done. Yeah, you're gonna get some.
Yeah, you gotta be
beatings.
careful there. But at 19 years old, is he physically ready? Will they play him? You know, I think that Daniel Farke is a guy who does play a certain way. So that's one of the things to think about is, will Brentford keep attacking? I think they will. Will Norwich keep attacking? I think they will. That says do not draft their defensive players ever because they're going to
don't be
right?
silly.
There's going to be games. There's going to be games where they lose 5-2, 5-3, and then I think an avoid as a team. I would avoid Leeds. I'm worried for them for some reason.
Ooh, you're out on Leeds.
I'm not out on them. I just don't see the bodies to replace players. There's nothing coming in. And that team is now on year 3 from the championship. Like, these guys have come up together. It's year 3 under Bielsa.
You think the legs are going to fall off a little bit?
I just don't know. I don't trust Bamford.
See, it's interesting. For me, I was going to say Bamford had 17 goals last year. He finished right around the 5th in the league with all of those
should have
misses.
had 30.
That's what I'm saying. I think half of those go in for him this year. I think he's challenging. This is my hot take of the season. Ooh. I think Patrick Bamford is challenging. He's not going to win for the Golden Boot this year.
I'll tell you why. He won't. He's not athletic enough. You can tell. He literally is running and he's fit. He doesn't get to the place you need him to get.
That's why it's a hot take. That's why it's a hot take. So we can, in 6 months, we can go, Mike, you fucking idiot.
It's sort of like,
here's a couple.
it's sort of like you have a ball player, a baseball player who you know is good. Like it's David Eckstein. You're like, I know you're good. You're just
How?
too small.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're right. And Altuve is like the best version of that guy. Like gamer, tiny, destructive universe. I know we all hate him, but we didn't hate him until we hated him, right? Like all the years when they were losing 150 games, and Altuve was like, how the fuck does that guy do that? He's like Pedroia, like those little guys, those Pedroias, where you're like, you're not an athlete. Fuck off. And you're like, there he is. That's what I feel about Bamford. He's like a fucking literature professor at a small middle liberal arts school, and now he's playing striker. Like, where the fuck did this guy come
That's
from?
fair. So I'll give you 3. Following on the Norwich bandwagon, Todd Cantwell. I think he will. I by the way, fucking hate this guy's face. But I think
he's fun though. He does like all the moves. He's got hair's all big. They may move him, what he is. So be careful.
That's true. He's a shit Jack Grealish. Shit Grealish.
They may go for he may go to Villa.
He might go to Villa. I would.
Yeah, he's a very shit Jack Grealish
for 38 million pounds. That's what.
Well, I think the way to think about him is he's Madison.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
One of my favorites, which, by the way, I stole a page out of your book a few years ago. I paid attention to a player who had come out of the championship with the most shots taken, and I went, I like this guy. Harvey Barnes. Harvey Barnes from Leicester. I call him Harvey Shoot First, Ask Questions Later Barnes.
What a legend. What a legend. When he was with Villa, he was fucking incredible.
Yeah. He literally.
Yeah, Leicester was like, we'll have some of that.
He takes so many shots that he inherently gets you fantasy points just by being on the field, right? So it's not that he chips in a ton of goals, but he's your slow hum, right? And you need guys like that.
He looks great.
I love Harvey Barnes. So he's been my guy for a few years.
He's so English. His name is Harvey Barnes. The hair is tight. The blue looks good on him. He's that when they play the 3 up front with Madison, Vardy, and Barnes, it's fun. And I think there's an interesting move here. I do think Madison could move, and Iheanacho could be the 10 for that team. Because he's not a 9.
Interesting.
Iheanacho has secretly been playing as a 9 and is not a 9. He needs to be.
He's a 10 in a 9's body.
He's a 9.5.
So and then one other one is
like his cock. Dick jokes, Nazis, trains, planes, fantasy, all the hits.
And
if you
automobiles.
Stuck around for the 9.5 Iheanacho joke, that's got to be in the description of the show.
You were rewarded for that. I want to end it on that, but I want to say one more real quick before we go. And it's a bit of a controversial sleeper, but whatever. Hakim Ziyech from Chelsea.
Hakim Ziyech?
Hakim. He is so good, and he didn't really see the field last year as a function of injuries. His injury, you could argue, really kind of paved the way for guys like Mount to kind of really step into the team. I think he has a full season under his belt.
At Derby with Frank is what paved the way, but I think
sure. But having that spot to walk in, right? Ziyech was a big money signing. Unlike the other big money signing, Timo Werner, who, I mean, it's a little obvious to put him in the bust category at this point. He was a bust last year. But having Ziyech in that wide role, he's like Mahrez light for me. So I think that the value you could get for him.
He's very Mahrez, yes.
Yeah. So I like him late. And this is the part where
the thing that I worry. So one point, the thing that I worry about with Chelsea, even though I think that they are the challenge for City.
Sure.
That team is slight. They're little slips of men, and I think they can play well against City, but when they've got to play Burnley, but there's not a lot of teams like that anymore. But
right.
I
there's
think
no Tuesday nights at Stoke.
They can be got at if you rough them up. That's how you beat them.
Yeah.
Although Rudiger is pretty good about being like, don't rough my guys up. I'll break your fucking orbital bone in your eye.
Yeah.
So I do like that.
It was a good open ice hit by Rudiger.
I do worry about them losing Zuma, because I think they need more physical. Anyway, up front they're slight. They're a little papery kind of.
No, you're absolutely right. And they're gonna sell guys like Tammy Abraham who have that substance to them, which I find
they let Giroud leave, who I thought was so important for them.
Off the bench. Just why not? Anyway, we'll be here for another hour talking about Chelsea, but we'll talk about them on Monday. Enjoy the Community Shield, Laurent. Let's get the hell out of here.
That was the Squeaky Bum Time podcast with Mike Salerno and Laurent Cortines. We are the football wing of the Chop Sports Network. We record on Tuesdays and Fridays, so be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcast so you never miss an episode. And if you're listening on Apple, please rate and review the show, because it makes a huge, huge difference, like Iheanacho's Johnson.